series of highlights of Coast to Coast.
Hello. Tonight and for the next few Fridays we're going to be retracing some of the journeys coast to coast that we've made in the last 2 years, revisiting some of the memorable places and events that the region has offered as raw material to our film directors. In this first programme we're travelling to West Cumberland, that coastal strip which once prospered on the revenues of coal and the products of the Bessemer, but which is now on Britain's ragged industrial fringe. To look out over Workington or Cleator today is to be reminded of the blacksmith's epitaph. My coals are spent, my iron's gone, my nails are drove, my work is done. Well, this northwestern anvil of the Industrial Revolution slowly fell silent as the pit shafts were sealed and the blast furnaces of Workington Iron and Steel were damped down. All of which made a celebration held near Beckermet last year all the more remarkable. With the financial assistance of a local landowner, Lady Egremont, some of the managers and the miners of Europe's last hematite mine had succeeded against the odds to thwart British Steel's plans for closure. They'd taken the mine over themselves, they had orders, and they were going into independent production.
If the mine does go flat out, they could be on the edge of a jackpot. Selling another 100 tonnes a month would put them £40,000 a year in profit. At full capacity, they could share a £250,000 fortune. The stakes are high because if there is no upturn and the recession drags on, then they may have a long spell on half pay, or even the prospect of unemployment. So when do they expect to show a profit?
I would say by the latter end of this year. The initial feasibility study postulated a 2-year fight and then a 3rd-year even state operation. We think by the end of this year we should be in a very, very happy position.
All this was the culmination of months of planning, a gamble that really started in the conversations that followed the first rumours of the closure at Beckermet, when the miners who worked the richest hematite seams in the world realised that they might become the last of the red men.
This is hematite iron ore, the stuff that's been produced from Beckermet since 1906. It is very high-grade ore, as high as anything in the world. It will be lost when the mine is abandoned because the mine will flood, and these high ore reserves will be sterilized. They are produced by what can now be known as the last of the red men.
I had no man's lad, it was a way of life. It was hard work, but you're more or less your own boss. If you understand what I mean, more or less. Because if you didn't produce iron ore, you didn't get paid. So you'd have nobody selling over, you had to work like hell to get your money.
Like, my living's gone, you know what I mean? And I'm 60. Well, I've 5 years to go, and my living's gone, and nobody wants me at 60, do they? And that's the way it goes, you see.
But you're not the worst of it.
But I'm not the worst off. There's lads a lot younger than me, and it'll be harder on them than me.
People in the 40s will be difficult for them to get a job around there.
Yeah.
Because the point with it is that you're just classed, however good and skillful and money you are, you're just classed as a labourer.
Once I leave that bit, I'm a labourer, as you say.
Just classed as a labourer, and that's the most difficult thing to get over.
They never really thought it would happen, that Cumberland would stop mining iron ore. But perhaps they should have realised. The shadow of change has lain over them for long enough. The shadow of modern Cumberland, of Windscale. Just about the only place those iron miners will get a job now. It'll be hard for these tough men to swallow the pride they've had in their work. Hard to ignore the pressure of traditions that were rooted here 2,000 years ago. This band of iron, the backbone of West Cumberland, has made men and broken men in its day, brought fabulous wealth to its owners, and back-breaking, honest work to the men who brought it to the surface. Hard rock miners who look on coal mining as a soft occupation. Once there were 50 of these mines, their shaft tops shoulder to shoulder with the coal mines that competed for space in West Cumbria. A mining bonanza that attracted men from a dozen countries.
One can produce now with that loader in one day, one shift.
There was a European community here before the paper shuttlers of Brussels were ever thought of. Poles, Cornishmen, Italians. Their accents are still here.
To pay it for them. Who is feeding with them? He's going to feed the people in Sweden, the people in France, the people in what they call it, into the country.
There's more men going to be out of work through it, and the government's going to keep it. If they kept it open for that wee bit cheaper, it's going to, you know, it's going to end up a lot dearer in the end. That's all there is to it.
He's going to feed somebody else. He's going to feed another country. To the country is going well because he's buying the metal from them, so them is doing well. And this country is going down and down and down because more people you put in the door, more people you got to keep. But this government is don't bloody bother what it's about.
Why?
Why?
We've been told by the government, by British, but they're fetching iron ore in from abroad. They're not using our iron ore.
But the problem is, when you fetch the ore up the pit, you've still got to sell it. And the fact is, they don't want it at working. For whatever the reason, they don't want it at the steelworks.
We were told that we were guaranteed employment for 10 to 15 years. We've been here, what, 16 months.
We know for a fact, well, 16 months ago we was told that there's 10 to 15 years of ore reserves that they got now, that they know then, with the possibility of more. They know it's there, but they just want to shut it.
Soon these tunnels and levels will be abandoned, waterlogged in the interests of BFC's new fashion for economy. There's iron left in these walls, plenty of it. That's slim comfort to the Cornishmen who came here promised a future, but easily justified by the accountants of the iron and steel business. Equally cynical souls at the pit head or against the West Cumbrian bar will dare to venture the suggestion that this is only the latest step, not the last. But as the final wagon loads leave Beckermet, the whole of the Workington steel plant, which turned this ore into rails, will suffer the same fate. But when Beckermet's shaft is sealed, we'll lose another of Cumbria's trademarks. From these kidneys and pencils of ore will work the black pools of hematite jewellery.
Beckermet is the only source in the world where this quality of hematite is found. The German name for it is bloodstone, and it does cut this horrible red colour. And this is the colour, of course, of natural rust, of iron oxide. It's called hematite from the Greek word hymos, meaning blood, hemoglobin, and what have you. And really, when I've finished here, I can be quite like a red Indian. That's a very tight grain of pencil ore. That's as good as one can really get it. You see how smooth it is, and that natural metallic luster is already there inherent in the stone. That is a beautiful piece. Now, pencil ore is actually nearly 70% pure iron, so it's as high a percentage natural iron as you can get. It is a very, very small part, of course, of what comes out of Beckermet, because one only finds a piece of this about every 100 yards during ordinary iron ore mining. And of course, once Beckermet closes, this is the last source in the world of this quality of hematite for making jewellery. There is literally nowhere else one will be able to obtain it from. Now, this is a very much a piece of history in the passing. I think that the whole history of the area, within 200 yards of these front windows, there were 3 iron ore mines at one time. And now we have one left out of possibly 100. And now this one is closing down, and this is the end of an era, really. A certain uniqueness in the world.
As the era wound to an end, as the fell sides were stripped of their pit tops, whole communities disappeared or died. Before Beckermet, the last pit to close was Cleator Moor across the valley, now being stripped of anything that can be sold off or scrapped. Frank Johnson managed both Hale and Beckermet.
You see the scene of dereliction that exists now, it was in fact a showpiece of gardens, lawns. The buildings were immaculately kept, and the place was a credit to everyone who had anything to do with it. This was a very good community, as is Beckermet, and we'll not see the like of these men again. I've been concerned with Beckermet Cleator Moor for 17 years, and I had 13 years in coal before that, but I wouldn't swap the last 17. The traditions here were something to inherit. They really were skilled men. They maintained the traditional skills, and there were different problems every day here. A bit further off there, if you want. We work at great depth here. I think our lowest working horizon is 1900 feet below surface. Costs of operation, in particular of pumping, because we're pumping 2.5 million gallons of water a day, 7 days a week, are exceptionally high.
You want the air on, Bob?
And it's very, very unlikely, I would suggest, that the mine can ever be reopened. The cost would be terrific. We're salvaging this machine, which we've now finished with, and it is being sold abroad. They've been in service in these mines since 1965, and they're not of any use to any other company in this country.
peculiar to iron ore usage generally, and I think possibly it might finish in Mexico. It was contracted to sell the whole of our loaders, and we're now busy recovering all 33 of them. It's finished loading here, so we're starting to take this out before the pumps are stopped and the water's allowed to flood the area.
Any more, Bob?
If the closure of a mine like Beckermet is like a death in the family, then Ray Clements is the undertaker. His father and his grandfather both worked underground, but he's the mine surveyor who'll lay the pit to rest. He'll make sure its future subsidence won't be too inconvenient a reminder that it once gave jobs and the best iron in the world.
Yeah, I've had to wait till now until we finish working so I can survey the present workings and make an up-to-date plan.
You'll have great difficulty, Ray, in depicting the various levels, won't it? Because they're superimposed.
Yes, we have, in this area, we have 10 levels sort of superimposed one upon the other. So it becomes very difficult, as you can see from the plan, working out where each level finishes and the other one begins. It's a fairly unhappy time, I think. It's nobody likes to see a mine close and sort of, you know, to see, well, I've been here 16 years, to see all that just sort of going out the window, it's not a very happy experience at all. They can import sort of foreign ore much cheaper. They can bring in one boatload what it takes us a year to produce. But, you know, I think it's a shame that we're losing a very small community with some of the individuals who work here. We've got some characters, and all this is going to be lost. All the miners' expertise is going to be lost as well, because they probably won't get jobs in mining, because they'll only be classed as general labourers. Their mining skills mean nothing once they leave mining. It can mean the end sort of an era as far as my family is concerned, because we've had associations with iron ore mining for probably the last 150 years. My father was a miner at Florence then. He always said to me that I would never go into the mining, but I think he meant going in as a miner. My grandfather had been a miner at Beckermet, and my great-grandfather had been a deputy at Beckermet as well, so virtually you can say that there's iron ore in the blood.
It always has been the same. There's always been families working there, haven't there?
Victor sat on the surface of the pit. After a while he went down the pit. Well, then Raymond's come to age, left school, he's come to age to start work. He got a job at the paper mill. Now Victor was fetching more money home than Raymond, which Raymond didn't like. So I had to get Raymond a job at the pit, just as simple as that.
We worked together for, I would say, 3-4 years.
Raymond now.
It always makes it easier for you to get a job if you have relatives there and the relatives are known and the good workers, you know what I mean? It always stands in good stead, right?
Well, I must have been a good worker to get you to a job then.
I hope it's so, yeah.
Iron mining was a family business. Like the pigeons and the working men's, a focus of these communities. Each generation following the seam their father and perhaps even their grandfather cut before them. For the Walker family, Billy is the last of the line.
Done all right, haven't they?
For 42 years, he worked underground and still remembers that his uncle was killed there. His brother Les was the manager at Beckermet once. Whole towns were built on the promise that iron brought, and for these men, digging iron was the obvious job. It had advantages too. If you could stand the pace on the 6 to 2 shift, you could at least have the afternoon free to spend with your pigeons.
I started on the land at about 12 months, rather more, but I enjoyed it, but I wanted shorter hours. I think the land was just a bit too long for me. That's all there was. Iron ore mining and farming. Now, you picked one or the other, and you thought you'd done well if you got a job in either. It was like that. I've seen a lot of changes from my starting, and that's 40-odd years ago. When I first started, you served your time to be a miner. You had to serve your time as a labourer with 2 qualified miners to find out what it was all about. But they used to test you out with a shovel. They didn't do as they do now. You get so many years and you automatically go in whether you're any good or not. But by then, if you couldn't use a shovel, they wasn't so keen of putting you in. That was all it boiled down to. You had to prove yourself with a spade. That was your job. And it was your nature. Some people haven't cut out to be a miner. You've got to be, I don't know, I think you've got to have a mine of your own. Now, years ago, if you went into a robbery, which was maybe 20, 30 foot high, if you started shouting and singing, they would tell you to shut up, because the vibration was enough to make it uneasy. But now, there's machines running there, there's these loaders, if you say, you can't hear your own ears, but they're still out in them hopping.
You've had to fight for every penny that you've made. The management have always kept the men divided. There's always been some men on good money and the other men on rock bottom. It's always been about 50-50. So there's never been, you know, too many men unhappy or too many men happy.
That's what I call slave labour. But today, it's a bit different today, like. Today, these young fellas here, they've got all machinery down, but when I first started there, it was just a pick and a shovel. But now, I might as well be at college as well, they don't know it.
In a way, I'm happy. In a way, I'm happy the pit's closing, because I'm young enough to find another job. I'm young enough to learn something else. Another 10 years, it maybe would have been too late for me. So I can maybe move on and learn a fresh, who knows, maybe a fresh trade or what.
Well, we're getting married in November, and he's getting made redundant 4 weeks before. So that'll mean that I'll have to keep working to keep him, because around this area, there's no jobs. Well, there may be few and far between the jobs that they are. And the ones that they are, you've got to have a skilled labour to go for. You know, you've got to have a skilled training or whatever it is to go for it. And he's been in a few jobs and that, but he's always stuck at the mard. But now, it just looks like I'll have to keep him, you know. And if something happens to me, like I have a family or anything, we're just going to be stuck.
On the door.
Them is a young people, like, so probably will find a job, but it's for myself. I'm too early to be retired. I'm too old to find a job. So, don't know what he's going to do.
He's lucky he's got my mother working.
Well,
you didn't expect it to close as soon as it did, though, did you?
I never expected this bit, like. I thought I got a job for life, but them thingies happen, so...
I'm 100% British, but if I can't get a job round here, I'm fully prepared to emigrate to get a job. If that's the only way out for me, I will leave this country completely.
I would do as well, if I was in your age, but in my age I can't do.
You're like me, Jack, you're too old for the...
No, you can't do it, it's impossible.
But these young lads...
These young fellas...
Can't get a job in this
I hope he's get more...
They want to emigrate.
He's get more life if he was abroad than being in this country, and away he's gone.
There's always that slim chance that you might find another job round here and you wouldn't have to change your habits and change your house and change your neighbours. You know, you've always got a slim... It's not a very big chance, but it's always a slim chance to keep here.
A slim chance. And these communities have stuck together. They've kept up the old habits. The routine of work at the pit, followed by the pleasures of life, watching the pigeons fly. Now the work's gone, and the chance is slimmer still. But when the British Steel Corporation made its decision, the way of life of these people was never one of the considerations.
British Steel has to make a profit. It's a business, and to manage it properly, they can't have too much regard for how many people are going to be unemployed or what it's going to cost. That is beyond their remit. Certainly.
Do you think that, Frank? Do you think profit should come before people?
No, I think that people should come before profit, but again, we've got to live with the government we have, and the government is dictating a policy which will probably be successful in the long run, yes. But I think that government is about people, not necessarily pounds, shillings and pence. But I accept the realities of the situation. It'll be a cost of a lot of heartache and sorrow for many people. I'm sorry that my people will be numbered amongst them.
You could have paid for itself, but... I mean, there's only, you've only got our word against theirs and their word against ours, like, so does it? You don't know what you can do, man.
In this day and age, it's a job like, isn't it? This is what it is. At the present time, like, this is...
What's a job like for, you know, it was going all the time, like?
Well, it's as Henry said, it's one big happy family. Some of us. Oh, I wouldn't know where I would like to get a job at, man.
There's not much chance of getting into the coal board. I think we've only got one coal mine left in West Cumberland, and they've got all the surveying stuff that they need. So I've either got to change my profession or emigrate. I'm not very happy. You know, my roots are in West Cumberland, and I'd rather prefer to stay in this area. But the job prospects are not very good at present.
Take it away.
And just a reminder of what Eric Robson said at the start of the programme, management and men fought the closure, then went into independent production at the mine, and the position is now brighter. Their gamble seems to have paid off.